On paper where the story's told, facts and truth, the legend grows. Lionheart's here with fire to spit. It's on paper with Anthony Smith.
With Anthony Smith.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the On Paper Podcast, brought to you by Black Buffalo. We got a special episode today. I got my two favorite guys in the sport. I got Rashad Evans.
What's up, Anthony?
And of course, we got the always on here, Dean Thomas. What up, Dino?
I feel like we're like your uncles.
Kind of. Yeah, kind of.
We're like your uncles at the barbecue.
Yeah. We bring out that black side. That's why I call him Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony. He talk different around us, don't he?
Yeah, he do.
A little bit. You know, I'm actually disappointed. Usually Dean comes on here and he looks like a hostage. Like it's all dark in the back. It looks like he started holding the sign. They treat me real good. Please send money.
He out the basement, huh?
Yeah.
I stepped it up, man. I knew that the show was special today, so I stepped it up.
Yeah, you got a big old mic and everything. Okay.
Yeah.
We're on a come up. All right. Well, we're going to talk the event this weekend at Madison Square Garden. But I kind of want to talk about Bonfim versus Randy Brown. Rashad and I worked that event. It didn't go how I thought it was going to go. I was expecting it to be a much different fight. Dean, did you get a chance to watch that fight?
Yeah, I did. It was a possibility. What happened to me was a possibility. And I think that's just sort of a testament of Randy Brown just not always using his full skill set. I think Randy Brown is better than what he shows at times. And he doesn't use his length enough. And he gets caught when he doesn't use it. So it was a possibility to me. I'm not surprised that happened. I was hoping that Randy Brown would put on a little bit better of a performance, but that didn't happen.
Rashad, where do you think that inconsistency comes from in Randy sometimes? Because sometimes that dude looks magical. And sometimes, you know, he I don't know, he trips up a little bit. Like he didn't adjust to the leg kicks very well.
Yeah.
I thought he came out better in the second round. He was a little more aggressive. He was kind of, he was a little lighter on his lead leg and really using it to keep jabbing, which was getting a kick less. But just generally, where do you maybe this is across the board completely, but I don't know. Where do you think that inconsistency comes from?
I think it comes from the fact that, like, when you're developing as a fighter, at a certain stage where you start to grow and you really start to become a name and you've had those big matchups where you're showing up and you fought your very best, something starts to take hold, which is an identity as a fighter, how you need to fight in order to replicate that performance. And it seems like Randy gets it sometimes, but ultimately speaking, he doesn't. And I was really hopeful that he did get it, because his last performance against Dalby, he came in there and he fought a perfect fight. He was right in the way. He was right in his face. He had great movement out the gate, and he was throwing a bunch of stuff. He spammed with the jab, but he kept his legs busy enough. He threw a lot of front kicks. And in the fight with Bonfim, he didn't really make the adjustment to start lifting his leg off the ground and start utilizing that front leg until like the second round. But the damage has already been done, and his movement was just shot at that time. So I feel like the more he really just kind of hones into like what makes him who he is and what separates him from the rest of the division, the better off he's going to be. But now at this point, you got to kind of start to worry about, is his confidence shot? And at this point, because he's had some big opportunities and he's had some big losses, but at some point those losses do start to transfer over to like not believing in yourself anymore as a fighter.
Rashad, I love what you're saying about his identity, because I feel as though he thinks his identity at some level is a boxer. And it took him too long to figure that out in this fight, that's not what his identity is. And it would seem like that. Like if you look at the Muslim Salikov knockout, that's one of the best knockouts ever. That 112 right down the pipe, knocked him flat out. One of the best combinations ever to finish a fight. And it came from a boxing technique. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what his identity should be. And I think that's the problem, is he thinks his identity is a boxer, and he has to get out of that.
Yeah.
What do you think his ceiling is, Dean?
Well, like Rashad said, now it's tough to say because I don't know where his confidence is. Like physically, it should be really high, like top 5. But the fact that he's lost all the big ones,
Right.
Jack Della Maddalena, he's lost this main event, the big ones he's lost. It's tough to know whether he can really rebound from that. Like physically, he should be top 5.
Yeah.
Mentally,
It's-
I don't know if he can get there.
It seems like Randy Brown always wins when you're not paying attention. Like
Yeah.
there's like a big pay-per-view, and then like somewhere on the prelims is like Randy Brown versus someone real fucking tough. And then as the card is going, and like, maybe you're not paying attention, and like you go to look at it, you're like, damn, Randy Brown beat that dude too. And then when you do pay attention, and you're like, oh man, Jack Della Maddalena, this should be a good fight. Got like 2 strikers, and then it doesn't go his way. And then this one's the main event with all the focus on him, and it doesn't go his way. And he's sometimes I have a hard time hiding my biases. I've always been kind of biased towards Randy Brown. I like that dude a lot. He's good for the community. He's good for the people. He does a lot in his free time for others, and he just like, I don't know, just like one of them real cool dudes that you just like to be around. So I always want him to do well, but I think, I don't know. I think sometimes sometimes you just see things maybe that aren't real. You know what I mean? I think that I find that with Randy sometimes, like, man, am I hoping or am I really seeing it?
No, I think you see the potential in him, and I think,
do.
I think a person that can spot talent will be blind not to see the potential that he has. But I feel like he needs to look at some of John Jones' fight, because John Jones is a fighter who I think pretty much perfected fighting long as a fighter, because he fights very well on the inside, and that's what makes him an anomaly. But he fights really good from the outside. He loves those oblique kicks. He does a really good job of giving you a faux distance where you think that he's a lot further away than he really is. And all the different tools that he uses to kind of just makes his reach that much more is all based on the fact that he doesn't forget about the leg work. He's making sure that he's keeping your feet on the ground, and he's keeping you guessing on what he's going to do. And Randy's at his best when he does that. I call it getting in your bag, because he starts to get in his rhythm, but he has to move his feet as well.
Do you think, I found myself watching him, and you made a similar comparison to John Jones over the weekend. I think, like, I was watching Randy fight, and sometimes it seems like he's doing too much. And I felt like even when I was fighting John, sometimes he's kind of just in a holding pattern. Like, he's establishing range. He goes oblique kick. Then you'll have to reset. He'll go inside leg. You'll have to adjust to that, or at least defend it. Reset. Like, he never really lets you get settled and like set your feet and go. But it's hard to do that when you're Randy, because he's always doing so much. Like, he's always really offensive. Like, he's always attacking offensively. He's always got something going with his hands. He's always kind of switching his stances and moving. And John is doing those things, but it's a little bit different. Like, I don't know. Do you guys?
It goes back to the identity, the phrase where it's like, your fake is only good as my reaction, right? If I'm faking and I'm not allowing you to react, then I'm just doing it in vain. But if I fake and then allow you to react, now my fakes have that much more weight and they become more believable. But like you said, to that point, he is doing too much.
Well, if you can't justify it, then don't do it. And a lot of times these guys are just doing things that aren't working, and just a bunch of busy work, a whole lot of nothing. And it's kind of sad to see, because like when I'm looking at these tall brothers, man, like Randy Brown, Phil Rowe, these guys 6'3", 6'4", fighting at 170, and just can't put it together. And like you said, maybe they should be watching John, looking at how John did it.
Well, look at Christian Leroy Duncan.
You know what I'm saying?
Look at Christian Leroy Duncan over the weekend. Like, that guy has an insane skill set on his feet.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it's that. And maybe he'll tell me I'm fucking crazy, but I don't feel like there's a system. Like, he's not working his way through a system. He has all these really badass techniques, and he's just button smashing one out there, and then he's he's flipping something here, he's spinning here. Like, I was a bit critical at times. Like, when he has to like throw a fundamentally sound like 1-2, he's got crazy power in his hands. He's got really great speed to it. He's got a weird off tempo to it, but he's kind of like turn his head away when he's throwing it. Like, it's almost like he's a bit gun shy.
Yeah.
At times. And again, he's young in his game. So I think I think he'll figure it out. And those are all real easy things to fix. But I think because of his style, he's so flashy and kind of in that stance where he's kind of bouncing, and then he's, kind of like MVP, where they're flashing shit from the outside and it's really fast and explosive. But when they're like have to be fundamentally sound and go boom, 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 boom right down the pipe, they're a little bit they're a little averse to that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, you brought up MVP, and that's one of the things that I feel has always been the biggest held back in MVP's career. He's too big move dominant, and it's great to always the flashy move, and it keeps people wanting to see you fight. But when you start moving up and you start fighting these guys who are fundamentally sound, you're gonna find just working and having a simple jab, having a simple two, and the simple techniques are what's gonna win you the fight. But also those simple techniques are gonna open up those big opportunities for you to make those big shots and have those highlight reels. I feel like a lot of the times these guys fall in love with these big moves because they've had great success with them. And I know, from my success with landing big shots, it's the hardest thing to break yourself from once you had it because you feel like it's just around the corner. But when they start fundamentally just sticking with the ones and twos and keeping it simple, then everything else starts to open up.
That's kind of like John, right? Like
Yeah.
he's got a good jab from the outside. He'll throw a hot 1-2 every once in a while, attack the lead leg, and then comes the big movements. But then he's right back to like
The
fairly simple shit.
Fairly simple.
Dean, were you good with the Randy Brown stoppage? Because I know he was pretty upset about it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
maybe. I think so. Maybe. Yeah, I think so.
I don't think the result would have changed. Could he have taken one or two more? Probably, but I don't know that I'm positive that the result wasn't going to change. And I was happy to not see him take a couple more big shots.
Well, if I were to say no, I wasn't happy with the stoppage, then I would be showing my Randy Brown bias.
Yeah. I feel like at this stage in Randy's career, and like we spoke about the confidence and stuff that happens when you don't, show up on the big fights, taking that kind of damage as well, that scars you. That scars you, and it scars you in a way that gives you a performance anxiety that doesn't allow you to show up on next big events. Because once you know how bad things can get out there, and you've had that experience, it traumatizes you, and it makes you gun shy out there. So if you have a chance to not get knocked senseless and have to wake up in the back room and have to be reminded about what happened, bruh, take that.
Yeah. I'm with you there. All right, so let's move into Saturday. It's I would argue that this is on paper, this is the best fight card of the year that the UFC has put together, top to bottom, from especially just the main card. If we took that main card and put it up there with any other main card, I think that this would rival any of them. We start out with Benoit Saint-Denis versus Beneil Dariush, and I guess I'm just curious what you guys think of this fight. We don't have to dig too deep into it. I'm a big Beneil fan, but I don't know what Benoit did to anybody, but they give this guy absolute monster. It seems like a bit of a mismatch to me, if I'm being honest.
I said the same thing with Hoofy, right? And I went to Paris, went on TV, and Paris was like, yo, Hoofy gonna knock this boy out in front of everybody here in Paris. And he goes out there and starches Hoofy. And I'm like, yo, how did... But
I expected that, actually. I
didn't expect that. But with that
being
said...
Because Hoofy can't grapple. The only thing Benoit can do is grapple.
No one, we didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? I thought he was good. I thought he had something else. No one knew that.
Yeah.
But I think stylistically, I'm with you on this. I won't say, and I want to say mismatch, but I don't want to put my foot in my mouth like I did last time. But I do think that what Beneil is good at, he's so good defensively in terms of his grappling and offensively dangerous in terms of his grappling. I think that's going to be a problem for Benoit Saint-Denis. I really do.
Yeah, and to add, another complexity to what you said, his stand-up in Beneil is sneaky good. Like, you watch Beneil on film, and you may be like, oh, okay, he's all right. And you may see that he does some things effectively, but nothing that he does really wows you. But when you're in the cage with him, and I'm just saying that just by everybody that he's fought in there, he's fought some great strikers in there, and he's been able to hang. He's been able to contest where they like, yo, this is a battle. And sometimes you'll see them initiate the grappling exchanges. So his stand up is something to be accounted for, but also fighting in this role. Like if you talk about a fighter who gets up for these kind of roles where he has to, take on the up and coming guy and kind of derail the hype train, Beneil gets hyped for this moment, and it seems like a moment that he's, been comfortable living in. But as far as Saint Denis, he's been getting the toughest fights because he's one of those fighters who has elite potential. Like when you look at him fight, he does so many things so well, and you're just like, man, he's this close to really figuring it out to becoming that guy. But with that said, he's faltered on that jump twice. And at some point it does start to play in your mind like, dang, do I have the ability to take it to the next level? So I feel like he may come into this fight with Beneil with a little bit more anxiety on the plate than Beneil does. And, that could be the difference between him winning and losing.
Yeah, I see. I've always kind of I've put him kind of in a box where he's hyper aggressive and he's a lot of fun to watch. But if he doesn't have the ability to out grapple people or at least be kind of mean and tough on top, he seems to struggle. Because even in the Poirier fight, he was actually doing really well in the Poirier fight. But anytime he found himself in a grappling exchange, he found himself defending submissions, and Poirier was working his way back to his feet, and he was always constantly having some bullshit to deal with. And it seems like maybe this is from his military background and all the crazy shit that he's done. Sometimes people that are like super comfortable, like he's not real fearful of anything in there. It kind of bites him in the ass though, because he doesn't have any, I don't know, he doesn't have any like sense of self-protection at times because he's just kind of going forward. And sometimes you see guys like Gaethje where Gaethje kind of is like, fuck it, I don't even care. But he knows what he's walking into.
Right.
Like he knows he's about to get into a mess. I'm not sure that Benoit Saint-Denis always understands that.
Well, I think part of it has to do with, like, I think his background, like his foundation of a fighter is that toughness, because he hasn't really been doing this all that long. Like if you look at his MMA career, it's like 4 years.
Right.
I mean, think about it, that's not a long time. Like it could be a little longer.
And started at Paris, and
Yeah.
not that I'm going to take a shot at French MMA, but it's not real deep in the bag or deep full of talent. The guys that come out of there are tough, but there's not a shit ton of them.
It's not a lot of experience, but when you talk about grappling, like I think Beneil Dariush is one of the most fundamentally sound grapplers in all of MMA in terms of offensive and defense. He scrambles well. He understands positions well. He'll catch a submission if he has it. Like he's so good of a grappler in terms of MMA. That can be a serious problem for a guy like Benoit Saint-Denis.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head, because when you try to quantify like what exactly makes Beneil so good, it's a blend of the stand up, it's definitely the grappling, but it's that grappling, scrambling, transitional success that he has, right? The ability to spot the opening and the ability to weather the storm, but it's that transitional MMA that he's really perfected, and that's hard to deal with, because when you see a guy that sees opportunities everywhere, you can't make a mistake.
No, and he seems to have insane power in his hands. People just seem to react different when he does land. And I go back to his fight with Gamrot. If that doesn't like really explain who Beneil is and who he can be, it kind of seemed like him and Gamrot were playing a different game. And Gamrot's a guy who was in one of the better fights I've ever seen. When I go back and I just want to watch like a really insane kind of fun, scrambly, grappling fight that's exciting but also high level, I'll go back to like Gamrot versus Sarukian, and then like Beneil versus Gamrot. He just shut him down in every facet of the game. Every facet of the game, and he took away what Gamrot does best. And I think that kind of a game plan with Saint-Denis is, because I think that Gamrot's better than Benoit, especially grappling and wrestling.
Yeah,
I think Gamrot's better.
For sure. I mean, that's not a stretch to say that.
No, but Gamrot's he has a better system. Like it's cleaner.
Yeah.
Like Benoit finds himself in some of the same positions, but it's a bit just kind of built on violence.
Yeah.
So I see that for this fight being, I don't know, at least a similar game plan. But I feel like Beneil's got a better shot at finishing Benoit than he does Gamrot, just because Benoit puts himself in some shit. So the next two fights It's 2 welterweight fights. This one's really interesting to me. If Leon Edwards is such a perfect example of, I think Rashad said it over the weekend that once you end up in this spot, that there is no more going back down. So we were talking about the next fight for Bonfim, and I think maybe Alan and I were giving him bigger jumps, and Rashad was more of a smaller jump up in the rankings, like trying to give him time to develop and continue to round his game out, because once you get into those huge moments and spots, there is no coming back down. Leon has found himself in one of those positions where, he was begging for a shot, he's begging for an opportunity, begging for this, and then he gets it, gets the head kick knockout over Kamaru, ends up winning the rematch, which I think is one of his better performances, and then it's kind of just been hell from there.
He is, and being in this position, what becomes harder when we're a former champion and now you're fighting, to potentially get back. Everyone you meet, they're 10 times more excited to fight you than you are to fight them. And that's where the mental part comes in. You have to recreate the game in your mind. And that's what a lot of fighters have a hard time doing. Does Leon have the ability to still compete with those guys? 100%. But I'm not sure if he's recreated the game in his mind to now be as hungry as the people that he's facing. Because the last few times I've seen him, I got love for Leon, but he looked like food out there. You know what I'm saying? He looked food. He looked delicious out there to those folks, and they went out there and they put it on him. But for Leon to win this fight, what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to add a little bit more to his game. But it's not a more that he don't have. It's just a more that he doesn't really implement. He has a really good ability to take people down, and he has a really good ability to mix up the striking with the wrestling. He's got to go back to that formula. When he's only striking dominant, he finds himself in a position where he's resting on that back foot, and he can get outpaced, and he can get outstruck, and then he gets very predictable. When Leon is tough, he's taking advantage of every single opportunity, and he's not afraid to take people down. And not for nothing, when he fought Kamaru Usman in that first round, when he was able to reverse that cage work and then end up on top and mount, he's got to understand he's able to do that against somebody like Usman. So he's got to implement and lean on that part of the game because it's right there.
Dean, do you think that do you think that Leon lost the title and then in his mind was like, all right, I'm just going back, I'm just one of the other guys now, and doesn't realize that he's everybody else's title fight?
I don't know what it is, man. Like part of me doesn't really know how to read Leon, because and I've always said this in terms of skill set, he might have the best skill set in the welterweight division. Like he's so good. Like he's really good on his feet, very tricky striker, underrated grappling, good takedowns. Like Rashad said, mixes his strikes to his takedowns in well. But part of me just sometimes thinks that he doesn't really like to do this all that much. And when you're out there competing and you don't want to do it, like you're not eager and enthusiastic about doing it in the moment, it reflects in his performances. And
he looked like he wanted to be in the Usman fights.
Yeah, yeah. And even and Colby too, so like
right.
There's fights where he looked like he wanted to be there, but in some fights he doesn't look like he really fully wants to be there. And I think that if he's there and he gets in the flow state and he's in his zone, I think he should be able to beat Carlos Prates. If he's in his zone and he's mixing up and he's taking Prates down and he's able to, I think he should beat him. But if he's just out there kind of doing his thing and thinks it's going to be easy, then it could be a long night.
Because one thing I've seen with Prates is that as great and as promising as Prates is and as fun as he is, I've seen that he will relent. I've seen if somebody, sets a tone in the fight, it gets hard for him to get out of that tone. And it's almost as if like sometimes during the fight when he's having one of those hard fights, he starts mentally beating up on himself. And I say that because his posture almost changes. And
Right.
he seems to just kind of be surviving the fight rather than trying to come behind and win the fight.
Yeah, he seems at times to concede and just do
Yeah,
what you want him to do.
right.
At times, for periods.
Yep,
But also, I feel like Leon does sometimes too. Like when it's
100%.
sometimes when he starts just pumping the jab and then hip feinting and then kind of circling and then I always immediately go, okay, well, this is what he's doing.
Well,
Like
that's
this is where he's going to be. He's not going to change the pace.
Well, that's what happens when you got these guys that are talented, right? These guys that are super talented. They're having fun when they're in their element of talent and not in necessarily a fight. When they're
Right.
able to show their talent, they're having fun. But when it's a fight for them, they're no longer having fun, and they're just like, all right, how do I get through this?
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think of Prates overall? I spent some time with him in his last fight. Before his last fight, he came and did the Lionheart Lounge. I did that real cool interview with him. I was really impressed. Sometimes you see these guys and he's a bit of a wild card. Like before the interview, he's standing outside just ripping cigarettes. And, he's talking about, he wanted a couple shots of whiskey to loosen up for his media day. And like I didn't know what to expect. So he shows up, like I said, he's outside smoking cigarettes, trying to find out if anyone's got whiskey. And then when he sat down, he's a really, really deep dude. Really, really self-aware of who he is. And I learned a lot about him, like in terms of he spent a lot of time in Thailand, a shit ton of time at the beginning of his career in Thailand. So he kind of has adopted this Thai mentality. Like those guys fight all the time. Like if it's Monday or Thursday or Sunday, like they just get up, they do the same routine. Nothing changes. Their lifestyle doesn't change. Like fight day's not a big deal to them because they're going to fight damn near every day anyways, but they still have to train. They still got to go to work. They still got to do their regular shit. So like he's not really ever nervous because fight days are like just normal days to him. He had a lot of criticism towards guys who wake up every day when they go fight day and it's like this is their Super Bowl or it's bigger than their wedding or like it's like their kids are being born. He said something like that. He was like, it's just another day for me. I think that mindset can hurt you sometimes if you're not super dialed in, but he also doesn't have a fair amount of anxiety because he's just in this real cool Thai mindset. It's probably where the cigarettes and whiskey come from too, I would imagine. But in terms of skill set, I think that the fighting nerds have been really good for a lot of those guys. Mm-hmm. I think that they work really well for him though, because they're so detail based and so he's very, very, very intelligent and it works well with his fighting style. And I think maybe sometimes you can overanalyze for a lot of people and it's too much, but I think for him, it works really well.
Yeah. When I look at him fight, I don't know if he'll ever be a champion because of that. Like, like you said, he's kind of wild, right. But he's a guy who's going to really have a fun and great career and look back on it and be like, yo, I had a great time and I had a great career. And sometimes that's better, right? Than to strive to be champion and not make it, right? To just say, you know what? Whether that happens or not, I'm okay with that, but I'm going to have the best career I could possibly have, and I'm going to have a lot of fun doing it. And that's to me where he seems like he is mentally, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think that he's a tremendous fighter, and I feel like he has all the tools to be champion and be the best. But I kind of noticed a change in him as far as when he was fighting to be the best, when he was trying to chase that title and he wanted opportunity after opportunity, he kind of had a different energy than he did once he lost. And I would say it's okay to have that edge that he has, right? Because that's fun and it kind of, shows that fighters are all different kind of ways and, it kind of helps out with his mindset. But like you said, Dean, in order for him to be a champion, in order for him to be in that top echelon of fighters, he's going to have to dial in mentally, and he's going to have to, for the most part, care a little bit more. And I can't say he doesn't care, but there's a different kind of care that you have when you're believing in yourself and you think that you're number one and you're looking at any opportunity to become number one, because there's a discipline that happens. And that discipline is something that just happens automatically because you know if you're not doing this, then your competition is. So the discipline that you have in trying to be number one, it irons out all corners in your life because you can't hang out all night, but then wake up at 6 in the morning and hit that run that you need because you want to wake up and be earlier than your competition. So I feel like the fun part of him took him this far, and it has really made him somebody to watch. But now, if he's going to evolve into the fighter he can be, he's got to put away some of the fun things and dial into that mentality to be a champion.
Yeah, you probably have to slow down on ripping darts pre-fight. You're gonna have to slow down on that.
You can't be
Probably
doing that, man.
you can't be doing that. All right, so and then the next, there's another welterweight fight right after that. This is probably the one I'm most excited for. I would say, other than the main event. Obviously, I'm excited to see where that goes. There's a lot of questions there, but I think just in terms of just raw excitement, Michael Morales versus Sean Brady. Now I know Dean's gonna have a different opinion.
Biased, huh?
Yeah, Dean's gonna be real biased here. Obviously, Dean spent a lot of time with Sean. Are you cornering him?
I am.
Okay, so Dean spends a lot of time with Sean Brady. He's gonna be in his corner. So Dean's gonna have a different outlook on this fight. So anyone's gonna say, "Oh, Dean's being fucking biased," and he's coaching him. So whatever Dean said, me and Rashad are gonna be on the other side. But I think that this is a really interesting fight. I think Michael Morales has got to be one of the most dangerous welterweights that's out there right now. A lot of it comes down to his personality. He's just a violent dude. What he did to Gilbert Burns kind of sat me back in my seat a little bit because I got so much love and respect for Gilbert Burns, not just because of his skill set, his amazing jiu-jitsu, got great power in his hands, great striker, but that dude is fucking real world tough. Mm-hmm. And Michael Morales had him looking away and not wanting to be there. So that was really interesting to me. Like, he has a bit of an aura about him. He has a presence when he's in there. Like, people kind of just act different than they normally would. Like, they fight different when he's in front of them than they normally would. But Dean knows my absolute admiration for Sean Brady and his grappling and wrestling game. The looks on people's faces when he grabs them, it's just fucking different. Anybody who's got a grappling win over Craig Jones, I don't care what rule set it is, or I don't care, or maybe it wasn't a win, it was a draw.
No,
whatever
it was a win.
It was a win. Okay.
Yeah, take that away from my boy. Come on, man.
No, I'm not taking. I was just making sure I didn't get it wrong.
No, I was kidding.
I don't care what rule set it is. Like, that's a feather in your cap, and he's not a competitor, and he's not a professional jiu-jitsu guy. So I've always been so impressed with his grappling game, and he did have the hiccup with Bilal, but I don't know that was necessarily Sean Brady. I don't want to take the win away from Bilal, because I do feel like everybody does that and downplays Bilal's wins, but I didn't feel like that was the real Sean Brady. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you got to show up when it matters. So what do you, Rashad, what do you think of this fight just from like a 30,000 foot view?
I think Michael Morales is, like you said, he's a specimen, to say the least. He has a lot of great intangible tools. He's got this power, he's got this aura. And you can see, it translates in just the way that he walks. He walks very confidently. He moves very confidently. He almost seemed to be not bothered at all by the moment. And that right there, it says a lot about a fighter and what they believe in themselves. So you have a fighter who has great stand-up, and he has this killer instinct, and he's dangerous all over the place. You're not just going to take him down and drag him. You're going to have to.
He's got a wrestling game too, right, Dean?
Yeah,
I think that was his initial thing wrestling.
In wrestling. So I mean, he has that ability. So with Sean Brady, he's got to keep the main thing. Sean Brady has great stand-up. And surprisingly sneaky good stand-up. But I mean, we all know it's Sean Brady's pace and his ability to wrestle is really what's going to win this fight. But he's got to make sure he's consistently using that to his advantage. The highs and lows. Don't get caught too straight up. Using the fakes and the feints to keep pulling Morales into an understanding that we're not just boxing or doing kickboxing. We're in an MMA fight where I can take you down at any moment. So it's going to be interesting to see, how it kind of balances out, because not only that, Morales is big too. That's a big ass dude. So, Brady's got to find a way to use his smallness for his advantage. Keeping Morales, guessing on what he's going to do between the high low sequences. But this one is a hard one for me to call, to be honest.
Well,
I was trying to
I'm
think
glad
of
you
what- I was
guys are
trying
being
to-
honest, because
I was trying to think. I was trying to think of what I was going to ask Dean. Like,
no, so I'm glad that you guys, yeah, because I thought you guys would pull punches because I'm here, but I'm glad that you're
oh,
calling it like this, because we know how dangerous Michael Morales is. In fact, but what stood out to me when this fight was offered to Brady, and Brady was always trying to listen. I want to fight for the belt, or Ian Gary, or get the Bilal fight back, and they were just like, "Hey, listen, man, none of these guys will fight you. The only guy to fight is Michael Morales." And Brady was like, "Done, sign it, let's do it." You know what I'm saying? It was
see,
not.
that means something.
Yeah, that's
That
what,
means
and
a
that's my
lot.
point.
There's not a
That's
lot of
my point.
motherfuckers in the
Yeah.
division saying that shit.
That's
Yeah.
my point. And he was like, I don't care who it is, because I'm supposed to be the best in the division. Now, this is a guy who on Sundays, his day off, still runs 5 to 7 miles. So when we talk about that focus that we thought that we can insinuate that Carlos Prates might not have because he's having a good time, Brady has that focus. He's hyper focused on not necessarily even winning the belt, but just being the best, his best. And that says a lot to me. So we understand what's on the other side of this. We understand the size of Morales, how he's a wild man. He's super durable, super tough. And like you said, he just doesn't care. So like he'll fight you. So we understand that. But Brady's just in a different place mentally. A year ago, who knows? A year from now, who knows? But just right now, Brady of today is like, yo,
He's on.
I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
Sign him up.
See, that's a different mindset that I don't know that people at home are probably like, well, yeah, of course he said yeah. Not a lot of people are. It's hard to find people I've heard them talk like, kind of behind the scenes. It's hard to get someone in there with Michael Morales right now because nobody's willing to put their spot on the line. And honestly, quite frankly, I wouldn't tell you who said this. It's not that safe to put that many people that are below him in there with him. So like they're mitigating safety for everybody else below him, and the people ahead of him don't want to give up their spot. So like they're having a tough time matchmaking him, which is kind of a incredible spot to be at this point in his career. It's really impressive, to be fair. Dean, you don't have to answer this. I wouldn't be mad at you. I would totally understand. If Sean Brady can't take down Michael Morales, is there any part of you that would worry?
No, not really. I would worry if he can't take him down and he's getting hit.
Right.
That's when I'm worried. Like if you can't take him down, you can still outpace him. Like you don't always have to get think of
But he doesn't have to
Merab,
win the
Right.
striking exchanges like violently.
Right.
Like
Like-
he just has to be a tad bit ahead.
like Merab and Aldo. He never took him down, but he was
Right.
all over him. Right. So like that would be worse. Still not the case that we're hoping for, but if he can't take him down, it's got to look something like that. He can't get in a situation where it's like straight kickboxing. You're trying to take him down, taking bad shots, getting punched in the face, like that would be a problem.
Yeah, there's something to be said about excuse me. There's something to be said about the pressure that ensues from the pursuit of a takedown. Not even necessarily landing, but when I'm in pursuit of a takedown and I'm constantly hunting for it, I'm fighting at a different range and I'm fighting for a different thing. For instance, I'm throwing punches, but ultimately I'm looking for the moment where I can close the distance, whether it's for a shot or whether it's for a clinch. Winning a wrestling and being effective with your wrestling all the time isn't about getting guys to the ground. And I learned that from Randy Couture, who was the best wall and brawler there is. He won a heavyweight title, not by necessarily getting the heavyweights down to the ground, but by winning off the cage. And I feel like a lot of fighters nowadays don't utilize that. And listen, it's not the most exciting thing, but it's a very effective thing if you utilize it the right way. If you're there and not just hanging on for the referee to break it, but if you're there and you're utilizing dirty boxing and you're just dragging on them to the point where you start mixing it up between your dirty boxing and level changes, they're going to start giving up the takedown because it's the lesser of two evils. And that's the place and that's the pace that you want to push. But that is primarily from the mindset where if I don't land a takedown, that's fine. I'm going to land in position. And the position is not going to allow for him to punch with me on a 50-50 basis.
You know, I think that Michael Morales is playing with house money. I think out of every single welterweight that's on this card, he has the least to lose because he's got probably the toughest. He's got nothing to lose. He's got the probably other than the champion, like he's got the toughest out probably out of everybody. He hasn't taken a loss yet. If he is going to take one, at least it's on a huge stage against a guy that's likely going to be into a title fight with another win. But if Sean Brady loses, it's going to take him a goddamn lifetime to get back because he was already getting close and then, you know, had a slip up with Bilal. If he has another one, you know, like then people are going to start saying, well, maybe he's not that guy and maybe he's the guy that'll beat everyone but the best. And I just feel like it's odd. It's just an odd situation where the guy that has the least to lose is fighting the guy that has the most to lose.
It's true.
Out of six welterweights on the card.
No, you're 100% correct. It's just, but at the end of the day,
does he know
somebody's got to have the balls to risk it?
Does he acknowledge that, or is he just doing his thing?
He's just doing his thing. I don't even think he really thinks of it that way. But
well,
but the reality, he's like, oh no, what am I doing?
Shit, he's right.
No, but the reality is, you're right. He's got everything. He's got everything to lose, and if he wins, it doesn't necessarily do anything for him. But this is what I always tell my guys, man. Anytime you get an opportunity to fight and remind the world who you are, it will do something for you because you can have a big moment and remind the world who you are and then just become a superstar, even if it's a fight that doesn't seem to make sense on paper. So that's the way we're treating this fight. To say, listen, this fight doesn't really make sense for you on paper. It's not going to get you any closer to a title than before, but you have an opportunity to go out there, smash this kid, and then people go, oh my God, I'm a Sean Brady fan now.
Yeah, or we forgot about him.
But you know what, though? These kind of fights, it fortifies your hunger. And there's something to be said about fortifying that hunger because for some reason, when you get to the position where you're the ranked guy, you're next in line, you tend to be more strategic on who you fight. And that strategicness ends up almost making you not the fighter you were, in a sense, being down to fight anybody. You know, when I first started fighting, I'll fight 3 guys in one night. But then the more success that I had and the more I rose up in the ranks, then I started to get picky. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of changes the hunger that I had. You know, being willing to fight anybody and being hungry enough to do so and not afraid to do so, when you become champion, you don't even care how they line up. You fight anybody.
Rashad, I was just going to ask you that. Did you become that way too? Like where you was like, nah, I don't want to fight this guy. I don't want to fight that guy.
You know, when I was in that space, we didn't really have rankings, so there wasn't really, you know, if they said you had to fight somebody, then you know you had to fight them, and you really didn't have a good reason not to fight them because you know they say, oh, they suck, their ranking is not good, you know. So it was, I really wasn't that guy. There wasn't a lot of fights that I didn't say yeah to. If I said no to a fight, it was more or less due to the timing versus not fighting that person because, you know, he wasn't who on my level or anything like that.
Who's the person you turned down?
I don't really remember any. I think there was a fight with Vanderlei that didn't mesh up at the time, and I ended up saying no to it. But I didn't. And there was a fight with Shogun that I didn't end up happening because I was going through some kind of conflict situation with the UFC.
Who did you turn down, Ant?
I never turned anybody down, but I did finagle my way around one time. Towards the end of my career, though.
I like how he put that, right?
Yeah,
I turned him down without saying I turned him down.
man, I politicked around it for sure. I'll tell you, it was Azamat Mirzakhanov.
Oh yeah, well
yeah. I was coming off of an injury, and I was starting to train, and they wanted me to fight him in Abu Dhabi, and he had just knocked out who's that black guy with the faux hawk, big 205er.
Oh, light skin boy.
Kind of, yeah, real tough, but
yeah.
Menafield, Alonzo Menafield.
Yeah, Menafield.
He just done Menafield dirty, and I was in Abu Dhabi working the desk, and like while I was there, like I was still there, and then it was like an hour after the fight, my manager hit me up and was like, "They want you to fight Mirzakhanov," and like there was a real quick turnaround back in Abu Dhabi. I was like, my back, it ain't quite ready yet, and it ended up being like I didn't turn it down. I just drug my feet accepting it because I was trying to convince myself that it was good.
You better take your victory lap, dog.
Yeah. Now look what he's doing to motherfuckers.
I know, man. Could you imagine? Now, you know who I turned down?
I was too old for that.
I'm gonna date myself here. Myself. The only guy that I ever turned, it wasn't even in the UFC. It was like, in the random scene outside of the UFC. Antonio McKee.
No kidding.
I turned him down like 3 times. I was like, I'm not fighting this guy. He's going to get on top of me. He's going to hold me down. He's going to grab my wrist and he's going to hold me down for 15 minutes. I'm not fighting this guy.
Yeah.
See, if I thought that's what Mirzakhanov was going to do to me, I'd have been like, yeah, whatever. I'll figure that out. Man, you ain't starching me in front of the entire UAE. I don't think so. I'm too old for that shit. I ain't doing that. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Black Buffalo products are intended for adults aged 21 and older who are consumers of nicotine or tobacco. If you're 21 or older and use nicotine or tobacco, it's time you charge ahead and join the herd with America's only credible smokeless tobacco alternative, Black Buffalo. Now available at thousands of best-in-class retailers like Wawa, Circle K, Sheetz, Love's, Pilot, Racetrack, and more. Black Buffalo was established in America in 2015 to honor the ritual and tradition of dip without the tobacco leaf or stem. Black Buffalo's long cut and pouches are made of barn-cured leafy greens that dip and feel like traditional products, all with food-grade ingredients and USP-grade nicotine. You're in good company with the Black Buffalo herd. Brand ambassadors like MMA Hall of Famer Cowboy Cerrone, professional race car driver Ryan Blaney, and country music star Larry Fleet all proudly dip Black Buffalo tobacco alternative, an American brand built on authenticity and respect. If you're looking for a real dip experience, long cut or pouches, go to blackbuffalo.com to join the herd. Use their store locator to find a retailer near you or ship products directly to you in most states. Black Buffalo tobacco alternative. The future of dip, honoring the past. All right, so then let's get into we got 2 fights left. I won't keep you guys too much longer, but we got co-main and main. Valentina Shevchenko, Zhang Weili. What an interesting fight. I have a tough time trying to figure out what part of it interests me the most. I just look at Valentina as she's so weird. Like she's evolved her style over time. Like she was this just amazing striker. She was, she just everything was clean and technical, and and her fights with Amanda were absolutely incredible. And then she transformed her body. She moved down. She started to age a little bit. Had some adversity that she was struggling with, and then kind of turned herself into a wrestler, kind of. And then she just recreated herself, and it's got to be one of the hardest things to do, in this game, is recreate yourself and then continue to find ways to be successful. But Zhang Weili is just an absolute goddamn monster, but she's moving up and likely to be the smaller fighter here. What do you think of this fight when you look at it not just from the outside, Rashad?
Shevchenko really proved something to me in her last few fights. Her series with Grasso was one that I feel challenged her in ways in which she didn't even know she had. But coming out on the other side of that, she found something in herself, and it was evident when she fought Ferro. She looked like the light got relit in her, and like you said, once you've had that level of success that she's had, you're not even competing against your opponent anymore. You're competing yourself against yourself on those best nights. So to still want to do that and still have the hunger to do that, it truly shows me the mindset, the bullet mindset that she has, and I feel like that's a tough thing to beat. But she's got this Weili in front of her, and if I can think of one of the most perfect fighters, it would be Weili, and that's with men included in this equation. I mean, the way in which she's strong, she does everything so well. She's athletic. She's a smart fighter. She has so many things that I just really enjoy watching her, and I admire her as a fighter in those respects. But I feel like whenever I've seen Weili lose a fight or have trouble, she's gone against somebody who has the kind of skill set like Shevchenko, that persistent wrestling and ability to actually be effective in a wrestling game. When I watch, Weili and she fought who was Yao Shannan, that fight was way closer than I thought it was going to be. And it was closer because of the fact that Shannan was able to challenge her in the wrestling. And that translated to Weili not looking so good on her feet in areas where she would normally look good at. So I feel when I watch this fight, it's going to be, Shevchenko's ability to get her down to the ground and to really challenge her in the wrestling that's going to give Weili problems.
Earlier in the show we talked about consistency with like Randy Brown, and I think consistency is also an issue for Weili. And even when she's having a bad day, she's still one or two.
Winning.
She's still winning and one or two in the world. But I do think the consistency is an issue because sometimes she looks like, oh my God, who's ever going to beat her? And then sometimes she looks very beatable, right? Like she'll struggle at times. You're like, it's not the person who I saw. Now, with that being said, you also mentioned Valentina Shevchenko's ability to evolve over the years. And I think that should actually be the standard because as you get older, your body changes, your mindset changes. You should be able to adopt a style that fits who you are in that moment. Valentina has been able to do that very well and successfully and still be champ. I just don't know if that style now, the way she fights now, will be enough to beat somebody like Weili if Weili is on her A game. If
Who's
Weili's
that?
on her A game.
Who's that? Man, who did Grasso fight last? Was it Talia?
Natalia
No,
Silva. Natalia Silva.
Natalia Silva.
Yeah.
When I watched her fight, when I watched that fight, I kind of felt like I was watching the next champion in that division.
Me too.
Mhm.
We all did.
Yeah, like that. I don't know who she fights next, but whoever it is loses.
Mhm.
That's just kind of how I felt.
Yeah.
This fight, I feel like is pretty competitive, but I did feel like Natalia Silva probably beats both of those girls, and maybe that's, I don't know. She just has a newer, faster, more athletic, deeper skill set in terms of her striking and movement and all of that stuff. But I don't feel like that's the matchup that's not the type of matchup that these two girls are in. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is going to be, if Weili is on, I think that she's going to really challenge Valentina in the wrestling part of that game. Because Manon, she drugged that fight closer as it went on than I think a lot of people remember. I think if people go back and you just talk about that fight, I feel like people remember it like, oh, Valentina Valentina dominated that fight. But if you really go back and watch it, it was a lot closer, more competitive than I think people remember.
It was pretty close, actually.
It was.
But I think I might have watched the Natalia Silva fight. We might have worked the desk together, Rashad. Because
Yeah,
I
we
remember
did.
you afterwards saying that she was hitting her like a cat. Like,
Yeah.
you were running,
Yeah.
I think I watched it with you, Dean, sitting next to the desk, or at your little coach's corner place.
yeah.
Yeah, but that was a great fight. All right, well, I'm excited about that one for sure. But the reason we're all here is Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev. And I feel like people are starting to turn on, like, and trying to move to, like, I feel like they're starting to get a little more on Jack's side. I think at the beginning it was like, well, Islam's going to move up. He'll be halfway comparable in size and he'll get a takedown and win. But I don't think it's that simple. And I don't think it's that simple because of the things that Jack is saying. If he was saying, oh, I'm the bigger, stronger fighter and he's not going to take me down, I would be worried. I'd be worried for Jack. But it sounds like he's expecting to be taken down and has the answer to get back to his feet. Now, can he? I don't know. But I just think this fight is going to be a whole hell of a lot more competitive than I think a lot of the world thinks.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know, but for me, this fight primarily is going to be contingent on the fact of, does Islam keep the main thing the main thing? One thing that I hate when wrestlers who are dominant in that field, they don't establish the wrestling early enough. You cannot go against somebody who is well seasoned like a JDM and try to stand up with them and let your ego get involved before you even make them even fear the takedown. Because here's the thing about it. You have to use the psychological advantage and know that they've been training their whole entire camp to stop this moment. So without them even trying, the more that you put pressure on it, the more you're putting a mental strain on them. And it kind of takes up a line of thought where they have to worry about it and they can't truly open up. They kind of keep the gun in the holster a bit because they don't want to get exploited on the ground. And it's been drilled into their head that they can't get taken down, or they better not give up the takedown too easily. So you have to play into that if you're the wrestling based fighter. But to say that is not to say that you neglect your stand up. You have to be well rounded in the approach to that. If Islam does that, then I think that he can have a lot of success in this fight. And I feel he will eventually drown JDM, not because he took him down once, but because he's consistently taking him down. And not only taking him down is going to do work. You got to do some damage. You got to have him when you go down to the ground. He's got to come up different. Sometimes it's not even about holding the guy down. Sometimes it's kind of, as Greg Jackson would say, help him up. But when you're helping him up, you got your head behind his head and you're blasting him with a shot. You're giving him something to get up with. And then if you do that enough, he's not going to try to get up. He's going to be like, yo, I'm not going to get myself in a position to get hit. And they start policing their own habits. And it makes it easier for you to then implement your ground and keep him on the ground. But if JDM starts getting on his feet and he starts running away with it, then JDM is going to start getting more and more confident. And that confidence will look like him stopping shots and look like him consistently getting up, because he cannot concede to any position. Him conceding to stand on the ground is a recipe for disaster for him.
Rashad, do you believe in scrambles? And do you guys believe in scrambles?
Oh yeah, I do.
I don't.
What do you mean you don't believe in scrambles?
I don't. And I'm going to explain it like this. I don't. So right now I'm currently studying the Tackett brothers. And when those guys are looking for a position, they don't miss. Every part of their body is exactly where it's supposed to be when they go for something. The arm is where it's supposed to be. The head's where it's supposed to be. The other arm, the foot, everything is exactly where it's supposed to be at all times. And if it's not, they just disengage. They just, I'm not even going to do it. But when they're going for something, everything is there. And that's, to me, the jiu-jitsu mindset, like a very strategic jiu-jitsu mindset. But I think that in MMA, we don't have that, because we believe in scrambles, because we believe in that the chaos. We believe in the scrambles. And this is my trump card for JDM. Is that JDM for the last couple of months has been working with a jiu-jitsu wizard, Craig Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And if he has that jiu-jitsu mindset where it's like, you have to put this here, this has to be here, this has to be here, this has to be here, and not just, all right, I'm going to just bump here, create a scramble, and get back up. I think he has a chance, but he has to have, and I think Craig Jones is going to be the key to his victory here. He has to have that jiu-jitsu mindset where you can't miss. You can't make a mistake technically in terms of what it is that you're trying to do, because you cannot scramble and win an exchange against a guy like Islam. If he tries that, he's getting finished.
Oh,
but I
sure.
do think that Craig Jones is going to be the answer here.
I do too. And if you look at I'm kind of doing some breakdowns, some telestrations over the weekend with ESPN. And one of the things that makes Islam so dangerous, and it's his Darce choke. We'll just, as an example, we'll use his Darce choke. He does it a little bit differently than everybody else. It's a little bit different variation, but it's always off attacking jiu-jitsu guys when they sit up. Like he doesn't allow you to sit up. And I think that I don't know, they did it a little bit with Volkanovski where they just kind of stopped. They didn't like Craig Jones didn't allow Volkanovski to wrestle up like that. He actually kind of forced him to just give his back up, get to the fence, and then scrape his back and shoulders against the fence and work his way up that way. I would imagine that Jack is probably going to have to use a very similar game plan and not kind of get into a jiu-jitsu. I guess I think it's going to be a little more opposite than him getting into a technical jiu-jitsu match where this has got to go here, this goes here, and then here's where I got to go. I think it's more basic than that and not doing jiu-jitsu and just staying safe and getting to your feet quickly.
Well, but and that's what I mean. Like he has to do that. And I feel as though Craig is smart enough to have been able to simplify it for him to be able to do this and go, all right, we're not getting into this jiu-jitsu match. It's just you got to do these things, and this has to happen for you to get back up. But you can't allow it to be any type of scramble. So when I say I don't believe in scrambles, obviously I do. But
I don't think he needs to scramble with him.
Yeah,
I think you're right there.
It shouldn't exist. It should always be something that you can control. Like that's the goal, to make sure that you control and not just leave it to chance.
Yeah, it should be.
I think he should do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it should be intentional.
One of the hardest fights that I had with as far as holding somebody down once I took him down is when I fought Bisbing. And it's not that he was able to stand up, but it was that he just did not stop moving once I got him down to the ground. He was so active and so squirmy. And that right there, it kind of it took a lot out of me, because when you're fighting for a hard takedown and you finally get him down, the moment you get him down and they just kind of sits there for a second, there's a moment to exhale, right? There's a second to kind of get a reward for your takedown, and that's the reward for even taking somebody down. You get a little break. You know what I'm saying? You get a little break. When you're not able to get that little break, that starts to play in your mind, because you're like, oh my gosh, if I take him down, he's going to keep on squirming. He's going to get back up to his feet. But if he gets back up to his feet and I don't have the energy to stand with him, then I'm in trouble. So now as a wrestler, I'm policing myself, saying, I don't want to take him down because I don't know if I have the energy to keep him down. So then I stop doing my game and I stop wrestling, and then I engage in just a stand-up battle. And I feel with JDM, he has to understand that it may not be him being effective on the bottom, may not always look like him getting up to his feet. But I'll tell you what it does look like. It looks like making sure that Islam is consistently working at all times to try to hold him down to the ground. And that's the kind of shape that JDM has to be in, the kind of shape that is kind of making Islam keep working the moment he gets him on the ground.
Can Islam stand with JDM?
I definitely think he can stand with JDM. Yeah, I think he definitely can stand with JDM, but I don't think that he can stand with JDM with just the threat of stand-up alone.
That makes sense. So if he can't take him down, he's in for a long... what if Islam never gets close? I'm not saying this is going to happen. What if he doesn't even get close to the takedown?
Well, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. You don't necessarily have to get to the guy to the ground in order to have effective wrestling in a fight. If he's able to close the distance and have that wrestling pressure, then he's fighting at a range in which doesn't allow JDM to even get into a rhythm. And that's another thing, is not allowing your opponent to get in a striking rhythm. And sometimes not allowing your opponent to get in a striking rhythm is just smothering them. They get smothered enough times, they don't have the rhythm, they don't have the cadence, so it kind of ruins the effectiveness of their striking.
There might not be many guys in the UFC who has a rhythm like JDM once he gets in that rhythm.
Yeah.
It's pretty to watch, isn't it?
I mean, when he starts going down to the body and coming back up, and then like when he's switching stances, I mean, it is pretty to watch.
Yeah, it's beautiful punch progression.
Yeah,
it's beautiful punch progression. Yeah.
I was doing a thing for the UFC, and they're like, just talk through this fight as it's happening, and I found myself just watching, and they're like, hey, say something. I'm
mesmerized right now.
I was here.
I ain't really got shit to say. Like
you could hear it.
Whatever it's supposed to look like, it's that.
Yeah.
The sound that it makes when he's connected is like,
yeah, and it's so fast, and he just everything's so smooth, and the way that his shoulders roll, and it's just, he looks like he's not trying that hard. He never looks tired.
Yep.
It's something different. It's something
Like
different.
Bruce Lee says, it hits by itself.
Yeah, no shit. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna get you guys the hell out of here. Dean, you have to go back to your dungeon. You're back in the basement.
yeah, I gotta. Yeah,
Rashad, you got some conference you probably got to go
Yeah,
into.
they probably looking for me right now, man. So I got to get out of here.
Oh, we had more important shit to do. I'm gonna get you guys out of here. I appreciate you guys as always.
All right, y'all. Peace.
Yeah. Get out of here. We partner with HomoFight Picks to get you the most accurate and well-researched fight predictions. They do all the legwork so you can focus on winning. Picks will be sent directly to your phone via text or email. It's totally up to you. The second we upload them. Use code Lionheart to get 7 free days at winnable.com/HOF picks. That's WINIBLE.com/HOF picks.